Okay, well, I think we will just get started. And if others come, that's perfectly fine. You all are on time, and um, thank you, Sheila, for writing in the chat. It's so great to have you here as well. So, hi, and welcome to How Can I Set Up a Record Keeping System? Thank you for joining the webinar today. We will be discussing the importance of setting up a record keeping system for your childcare business. My name is Erica Knowles, and I will be your presenter today. I am part of a national team of childcare business coaches and trainers from Civitas Strategies, working with Chris Eyre and New Mexico ECECD to bring crucial information and resources and skill building to providers in New Mexico to support business success and sustainability. If you don't mind, Sheila has already done so, but if you don't mind, please put your name and a little introduction about yourself. I guess Sheila didn't really do an introduction, but if you could just, maybe put how long you've been in childcare and what part of the state you're in, that would be wonderful. This presentation should last no more than an hour. We will have a Q&A session at the end. So please put any questions that you may have throughout this webinar in the chat, and I'll be keeping an eye on the chat. I will pause at some point here through the webinar, and we will answer some questions if there is any in there. And again, I really am looking forward to being here today and going through this very, very important topic with you all. Yeah, thank you both for writing in the chat. Hopefully we get a few more coming in. All right, so the information contained here has been prepared by us at Civitas Strategies on behalf of the New Mexico Early Childhood Education and Care Department, West, and Growing Up New Mexico, and is not intended to constitute legal, tax, or financial advice. The Civitas Strategies team has used reasonable efforts in collecting, preparing, and providing this information, but does not guarantee its accuracy, completeness, adequacy, or currency. The publication and distribution of this information is not intended to create, and receipt does not constitute an attorney-client or any other advisory relationship. And reproduction of this information is expressly prohibited. So let's get started. In childcare businesses, it is important to keep so many different types of records. We will be discussing today the types of records that you need to keep, how you can keep them, how you can store them, and also how you can maintain those records as long as is needed. So we will be giving you some tips and tricks, and also going through many of the processes to hopefully make them a little bit easier for you. We know that there are so many things that happen throughout the day, and sometimes record keeping is one of those things that gets pushed off to the side and forgotten about because it's not one of those crazy fires that you're trying to put out all day long. But it definitely is very, very important. And by the end of this webinar, we hope you see the importance of not only keeping records, also understanding the value of ensuring that you have a maintenance method for your records as well. So, I'm sorry. In the childcare business, again, it's so very important to keep so many different records. Again, we're going to talk about a lot of them today, and hopefully you're going to gain some great, full valuable information from all of this. I'm hoping that more people have joined. Sorry, just trying to take a look here. There has been quite a few people that have joined, and thank you so much for everybody who has so far written in the chat as well. Okay. So this is an important topic because no matter what the size of your childcare business is, maintaining accurate business records is vital to your operation. A solid and complete record keeping system can help you to easily access to your documents whenever you need them, and it will save you a lot of time, worry, and effort in the future. So hopefully you won't misplace anything critical. You'll also be able to find something when you need it, because a lot of times if somebody's looking for the records, they probably are from a government agency and or state agency, and they want their records pretty quickly. So practically speaking, organized and clear records allow you to quickly understand your business needs and the day-to-day operations of your childcare business. So there are many, many types of records to keep, in order to have an accurate record keeping for your childcare business. And here are just a few of those. To meet state and licensing and local regulations, you definitely need to keep records for those. Lawsuits could possibly come years after incidents, and they are crucial to have for your defense and for insurance purposes as well. And then also, like I mentioned, government agencies and audits. If that is something that the IRS comes knocking, they usually want their records pretty quickly. Sorry, one second. Okay. There are several key records that you should maintain regardless of your business size. For example, all businesses should keep their state and federal tax returns, all supporting and backup documentation as well. Businesses should also keep current and past employees, their names, addresses, timesheets, pay stubs, generally any sort of record that has to do with a bank or financial statements, you need to keep those as well as insurance documents, parent contracts, as well as staff contracts, any loans and mortgages, receipts, customer bills. You need to keep, a record of those as well. And also your profit and loss statements and balance sheets if you are currently using those as well. I do often get the question of why we have emails listed on the list that's on the screen right now. Definitely, any sort of email, we're actually going to talk about it a little bit later as well, but any sort of email from a parent or from a staff member, if something happens in your facility, whether it's an upset parent that is emailing to say, that their child is not coming back, or a staff member that, tells you the same type of thing that, they're not coming back, or, any sort of that could potentially be used against you in the future, please keep those emails as well. So kind of what I was just saying, you want to keep all records related to injuries, complaints to any regulatory agency or law enforcement, for sure you want to keep those. Any allegations of abuse or parent or employee conflict, if there's any emails, any incident reports, any paperwork on those at all, you want to keep that. Legal cases, unemployment cases, and other complaints or allegations can happen long after you've forgotten about the issue. So you definitely want to make sure that you keep any sort of paperwork that you have in order to cover yourself. In order to mitigate risks for yourself and your business, we recommend 3 things to ensure that you are protected in the future. You want to keep, again, your incident reports, terminations for children and employees, signed parent and employee agreements, and insurance documents and contracts as well. We also suggest that you capture communications such as, text messages from staff, or parents, and emails as well. You also should keep pictures of the area if there is an incident or any eyewitness stories. And then also we suggest that you make sure that you have a time-stamped account of your side of the story. And that can be as easy as emailing yourself. You can email yourself. You can just, again, send yourself a quick email with the time and the date. And that way you will be, covered in that sense. Um, if one of your staff members was involved, you want to have them email you as well. Having that date and time on that email will definitely help you, if something comes up with a lawsuit or anything like that, or anybody questions it from licensing or anything in the future. Um, okay, different kinds of records should be kept for different lengths of time, and some are dependent on your specific needs for your childcare business. For example, we recommend keeping all your tax records for 7 years. The max needed in cases where you are claiming a loss. The minimum needed is at least 3 years from the date that you filed the original return, or 2 years from the date that you paid the tax, whichever one is later. So that's why, that gets a little confusing. So that's why we try to cover everything and ask that you keep them for 7 years. Accounting documents, including invoices and checks, should be kept for 5 years. Any payroll records of your staff and time cards should be also kept, and those should be kept for 3 to 7 years as well, like your tax records. For nonprofits or corporations that complete audit reports, plan to keep those records indefinitely. You need to make sure that you keep any audits, indefinitely if you're a nonprofit or a corporation. Annual statements should remain in your records indefinitely as well. And then other important records and amounts of time to keep them include personnel files for 4 or 5 years, past insurance policies and records for 3 years, and then contracts for 3 years as well once they've been completed. As you can imagine, it can be very useful to create a record retention schedule for all of these records. And I know, if you've been in childcare longer than, 5 minutes, you know how overwhelming some of these records can be in keeping them as well. So hopefully, again, some of these things are going to help, alleviate some of the stress of creating this if you don't already have one. So let's pause for a second. I just did a lot of talking. Let's pause for a second, and I would like to ask if anybody has any questions, so please put those in the chat. I also have a puppy that's here. He is playing and barking, so I apologize for that. But if there's any questions or thoughts, or anything that I've gone over that you wanted to talk about a little bit more, if you could put those in the chat. And then let's just see who has introduced themselves. Okay, so we have quite a few, looks like directors. Wow, 35 years. Okay, great. Glad you're here. Sheila, director of the Montessori. Thanks for coming, Jesse. No worries at all. I'm glad you're able to be here. Any student record must be kept for 99 years. I have not heard that. I cannot confirm that, but I can definitely find out. I have not heard that. And I actually didn't even start off by saying that I was a director for 18 years prior to this position in many states with my husband, who is about to retire from the military. So in all honesty, for 7 years is the longest that anything is required to be kept, except for those few documents that we that we said were to be kept indefinitely. So we recommend that you keep everything for at least 7 years. Again, there are the different lengths of time for these documents, but if you keep most of them for 7 years, you're going to be covered. Again, I have never heard of the 99-year thing, and I would think that's a little fishy too, especially for large centers. But yeah, and let me see here, Autumn, let's see. Okay, well, hopefully, Autumn, you're going to get some information out of this webinar and learn some things. Okay, if there's no other questions, I don't see any other questions in the chat. We will continue. All right, so now we're going to switch over to storing records. Storing records can also be very overwhelming because, again, there's a lot of them. So you've got various options when it comes to storing your records. The perks of maintaining digital records are that they don't have to take up a lot of space. I think we've all been there where you have boxes and boxes and you just, keep them in the shed or in the closet. But digital records obviously are stored digitally on your computer and you, again, are going to take up much less space. The good old-fashioned paper record keeping system can be one of the simplest ways to set up your record keeping. You definitely want to start off probably with the paper record keeping if you do not really have anything in place right now. It is a little bit easier for especially smaller centers or family home providers to start and to maintain. Definitely, starting off with the paper record keeping system. But you want to consider tools for organizing a paper-based system as well. And these might include something as simple as a file folder or, little hanging folders in your file cabinet, or a large accordion folder as well. So either way, whether you're setting up a digital or a paper system, a record keeping system is definitely very, very important. And again, it's something that it's going to take a little bit of time, but it is an investment that you will see some wonderful things come from down the road. If you've never had to find a record, in the shed and dig through boxes and boxes, having a system in place will definitely save you some time and effort down the road. We want to stress that you need to utilize the system that works best for you in your particular childcare business. There are so many different ways for you to store your records or maintain your records. But again, it's going to be what works for you in your childcare business. So we have classified records maintenance into 3 levels. There's basic, intermediate, and advanced. Basic is the good old paper written down with folders, with boxes that either go in the shed or in offsite storage. Nothing wrong with that for sure. And then we move on to intermediate. Intermediate is still with paper, but it also has digital backup files as well. And you will use an online data and cost management system in that intermediate level. And then advanced. Advanced is fully digital system. A lot of centers, especially large centers, have moved to fully digital system. And if you have a CCMS accounting or record system, definitely those make that a lot easier as well. So while looking at these 3 levels, again, please remember to use what system works for you and your childcare business. What works for one definitely is not what works for all. So keep that in mind. A records index acts like a reference guide, so you can easily look up and find a certain file that you might need. So this is what I was talking about when I said, if you're still using the paper logs and putting everything in storage, if you have to find things later, sometimes it can be very hard. So we do suggest that you create a records index. So it again doesn't have to be something complex, but it's not just for you, but for somebody else in the future that could potentially be looking for the documents that you're storing today. So a simple version might just be a set of labeled file folders with sections that make it easier to access things. And then a more complex version might be a spreadsheet or a table indicating where each important record can be found. You want to do what's right for your business again and what's right for your brain. So whatever you can figure out, depending on where you are in the process, is how we would suggest that you set this up. It can be, again, as simple as writing on the outside of the box or keeping those boxes separated where you have one for financials, one for child files, and one for staff files. And then you're writing on the outside of the box the specific dates that those, files correspond to. So that, again, if somebody files for unemployment down the road, or, a parent comes back and there's some sort of legal issue, you're able to find those quickly. So I see there's a question, and Jesse is asking, will there be a recording of this webinar available? Good. I'm glad you think it's good info. Yes. So there will be a recording. This will be available on, I believe, the West website for, I believe, 7 days after we will do some editing and stuff. And then it will be available for up to 7 days. I can also say that there will also be some other information that does come with this recording, as far as just some guides and tools that you'll be able to get from that website as well, to help you with the process. So, absolutely. All right. So saving receipts is so very important, and also something that can be super overwhelming depending on the size of your business or how often you do it. So for home providers, receipts can be classified into whether they are for business or for business and personal, and we do recommend for everyone that you categorize those receipts by your budget categories. So that will make it easier for you whenever you are looking to see, again, like kind of, from your budget where your money's going in and coming out. If you have it written on the receipt, you'll be able to see that right away. One thing I used to do as a director, in a crazy center, I would keep all of my receipts on my desk. I had a little file folder there, and I would keep them on my desk, because if I filed them, I would never get back to them. So they didn't get filed until I would write my budget category on the top as well as the date. And sometimes I would have to do a little math. If I went to Sam's Club and I purchased, some things for, under supplies, and then some other things under, food, I might have to kind of split that up a little bit, but I would write those numbers right on top, along with the budget category. And at that point, I would then be able to file those receipts away. Again, that was a very busy center, and I would do that probably weekly in order to keep up with it. Another suggestion I would make, something I also used to do, was to take the receipts and staple them together by month, so that it's not just random, because some receipts are tiny, some are long and very, like if you ever went to CVS or Walgreens, sometimes they're super long. So I would definitely suggest that you staple those together as well to keep them all together. And on the screen, you could see an example, especially for a home provider, of how you are able to split the cost of, we did paper towels. But so here, again, say you go to the store and you purchase a large pack of paper towels, but some are used for business and some are used for personal. If you purchase the pack of 10 paper towels, and we just made them round numbers, for $20, and you use 6 for your childcare business and 4 for personal use, so you can see the math. So your 6 rolls used for your childcare business is 60% of that $20. And so your business cost that you could use a write-off is $12 for your business expense. Hopefully that makes sense. That's something that's very, very important for childcare family homes to understand, that the different ways that they can, write down or keep track of what is for their business. If you have any questions about that, please put that in the chat and we can come back to it. Transportation costs. This is another one that we get a lot of questions about. There are elements that you need to make sure in order to make your transportation deductible. So it must be in the regular course of doing your business, and it must relate directly to the childcare, like picking up the children from school, or it must be business related, such as going to Costco to buy milk for your childcare. At that point, those transportation costs, that mileage, can be written off to your business. You also need to keep personal and business travel separate. So this also can get very tricky sometimes for home childcare providers, but you do need to make sure that you are keeping accurate records of exactly your mileage and what is for business and what is for personal use. So the two examples listed should help you to understand the difference between personal and business transportation costs. In the first example, you can see that the provider went to the store to purchase things for her childcare business. And in the second example, the trip to the store was to purchase groceries for her personal home, personal family. And then she picked up a few things for her business while she was there. The primary reason for that trip was personal reasons, and it was not for business reasons. So again, something that can be confusing for family home care providers, but also very, very important that you understand. So if you have questions, please put those in the chat and we can always come back to them. So let's talk about the importance of maintaining your records. So maintaining accurate records for your childcare business is important. Not only, again, it's going to save you time and effort, but it is important to, the quality care and protecting the health and safety of yourself and your children in your staff members in your care. It's also helpful for any audits. And in this case, when you're looking to expand or grow your business, it is also very, very important that you have all of your records, perfect, so that when you go to the bank, that you can definitely prove that you're worthy if you need to get a loan or anything like that. Or any grants, those also oftentimes you have to send in some records as well if you're applying for some grants. So another thing for maintaining records, again, the records are crucial to your business, and being able to access them easily can save you frustration, time, money for sure. Whenever record system, whenever it works for you, that's what you need to do, whatever that might be. And then you need to plan regular maintenance. Again, that's it getting piled up on your desk or in your little office, it can be overwhelming. And that's when things just get grabbed and thrown into a box. And again, you don't know what box it was in. So it can definitely cause a headache later on. So you want to plan regular maintenance and back up your important information. So this means first creating a habit for yourself. Some might file things as soon as they come across your desk. And that's wonderful if you can do that. But we also, again, know that, you're juggling and wearing 50 hats throughout the day. So sometimes that's just not possible. So again, making sure that you have a habit and something written and planned, even if you put it on your calendar, even if you don't get to it at that time, it's still there, it's written, and then you can get to it as soon as you get a chance. We strongly suggest keeping two sets of records stored in two different places. Your office computer and your home files, for example, where one set provides a backup to the other set. This means potentially keeping a paper copy and a digital copy as well. And, it can seem redundant, but is so very important. If something would happen to, your paper copy, you would have a backup, or vice versa. Your computer crashes and you can't get into it anymore. Having that paper copy will again save you in the long run. One other thing I did want to point out about receipts was that, you might want to, keep a copy of those receipts as well, like an actual paper copy or, digital copy. If you've ever shopped at some stores like, Home Depot or Lowe's, you have the receipt and then 5 months later you look at it and it's completely blank. I don't know where the ink goes, but it's gone. So having that, copied is definitely going to help you as well, and having them, in two separate places. Again, just best practices. An example of maintaining your records would be making regular backup copies, like printing out your financials from, whatever childcare management system you use or QuickBooks. You could do that once a quarter. Just, and again, you can run different reports. It doesn't have to be every single transaction that you've had. You can run specific reports for that purpose. So, some tips to get started. We also understand that, again, there's so much that goes on. There's so many things that need to be taken care of right away, that getting started might be the hardest part. So here are some tips that we've come up with to help with that. Creating a simple log can help you organize your record keeping system as you get started. All of the records that we just went through and talked about, you can write them down, what you should be keeping, how long you should be keeping them, and also how often you should be updating them. So again, it's going to be different for every childcare business and different for everyone, but those are the three that we suggest. And of course, where those files are located. And if you have them in both places, like we suggest, then you need to write down exactly where in, both places those are located. So another thing to keep in mind as you create your filing system, some key records and data like, social security numbers, addresses, any sort of medical information from your children, child files, um, any information that could potentially be HIPAA or anything like that. You need to keep them privacy protected. Be sure to lock them up if they have any sort of sensitive information, and also remember that that includes your computer. So if you have those records or that information in your CCMS system or, stored on your computer, then that computer should be locked with a password as well. So again, whether your files are, on paper or in your hard drive or in the cloud, you want to add the maximum reasonable amount of protection that you can to mitigate your risk, and try to, again, mitigate the risk for any sort of data breach or anything that could potentially happen. You definitely don't want to be the reason somebody's information gets out there because you had it in it and it wasn't locked. So keep the people who you permit access to that data, keep them to a minimum if possible. And then you can use your record keeping system not only to maintain historical information, but also to help you prepare for the future. For reoccurring tasks. We call this a tickler system. So you want to create a system that is going to remind you or tickle you, and you'll be able to then know exactly what you need to be doing. So create a tickler note, a document or folder digitally or on paper that reminds you with some upcoming information or to-do items that come up either, every month or every quarter. Those are the things that sometimes, fall through the cracks. And we all know, again, it's very busy. So having that set up as a tickler system will definitely help. Ticklers can prepare you for quarterly taxes or annual reporting, or, and it also just reminds you of, any monthly information that you must do or monthly follow-ups that you have to do for renewals, all of those things, for example. Okay. I will open it up again and see if there's any questions about anything that we have gone over so far. there's any questions, post them in the chat, please. So Autumn, I do see here that you had typed about um, budget and record keeping system is completed by accountants. So yes, a lot of times if you have an accountant, for sure that is, oftentimes someone who will help you with this, but just remember that, if licensing comes or if the IRS comes, it falls back on you, and they want to know where, they want the record. So you need to know exactly where it is and make sure that it is being stored properly and maintained properly as well. So, obviously, if you have, can have help in that process, then that is wonderful. But yeah, for sure, you want to make sure that you understand and that if somebody does come knocking and wants those records, that you need to know where they're at. Can I go back to my 2020 tax return and amend it as I cheated myself out of deductions? Olga, that is a question for let me see. That is a question for somebody else, not me. I'm not 100% sure about taxes, but what I can do is get some information to find out. Actually, on the next slide, I'm actually going to give you some information, Olga, for who to contact with questions about, these things that we've gone over. And then I'm guessing that they would also be able to refer you to somebody as well for that question about your taxes. Sheila, good. I'm glad. Sheila says she's feeling proud about her school and what they do. That's wonderful. And again, being a previous director, former director, I am proud of you because I know how hard it is. So if you're doing a good job at this, that's great, Sheila. Any other questions before I move on to the next couple slides? All right. So the last couple things that we need to do is, Olga, here's what I'm talking about. I would suggest that you reach out to Corsair and see if they have anybody there who is able to help you with those questions. But you can visit www.corsairnm.org to find our contact information, sign up for coaching, access Corsair New Mexico provider resources, ECECD recommended tools to help build your business, and a lot more. All resources are available in English and Spanish. And this Corsair New Mexico website is also where you will find more information about record keeping. There will also be some information on there. You'll see some little, charts and things that we have made. Again, you want to use what works for you and your business, but some examples are there as well for you all. So I want to say thank you so much for coming to this record keeping webinar. And this is, if you have any other questions or if you would like to learn more about Civitas and our team or stay in touch, you can visit us at civstrat.com. You can email us at info@civstrat.com. We also would love to hear from you if you have any, especially home childcare providers. We do run the Tom Copeland blog, and we do monthly answer questions that are sent into the Tom Copeland blog as well. So we do that on YouTube. So if you have any questions, you're more than welcome to put those in at the Tom Copeland blog as well. And then here is a QR code for our YouTube channel. We have a plethora of, informational videos that you can find on our Civitas Strategies YouTube channel. There's so many valuable resources on there, not only, for New Mexico, but for many different states that we've worked with, and they're all free there. You are able to access them on YouTube. So definitely it's there to support, you and your business. We really want to help childcare providers, not just in New Mexico, but throughout the country for sure. Great, Jesse. There really is. Again, like I was a director for 18 years. I wish I would have known about Civitas when I was a director. The stuff that we do, and all of the things on the Chris Air New Mexico website, as well as on our YouTube channel. It's definitely worth your time to take a look and go through those. All right. And if there's any other thoughts, questions, comments, you're more than welcome. Please put them in the chat. But that is the end of our webinar. I again thank you so much for being here and going through the webinar with me. I hope you learned a little bit about record keeping and how you're able to make it a little bit easier for you to handle, and gave you some tips and tricks as well. You're very welcome, Autumn.